What up, good people? Swap for stuff, man. I'm bringing y'all this, like I said before, we was gonna go look, we was gonna look at the bus. I gave you a walk around of the bus, and we are gonna talk to Quinton Higgins, which is one of the survivors of the bus crash of 5/14/88. I'm gonna camera around, and I'll let him tell his testimony and his story of, why it is important. How we doing, Danny? It is important for us not to drink and drive, man. So it affects a lot of people. So again, I'm not gonna go on about it. I'll let him tell, and speak on it, and the significance of this bus. You know what I mean? How we doing? Be Low, appreciate you in here, man. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. If y'all don't care, man, just hang out, listen to this. It's my man. If he don't mind, you don't care, you introduce yourself. We live on here.
Live on Facebook.
No, YouTube.
Sorry about that, but yes, my name is Quinton Higgins, and I'm a survivor of the Carrollton bus crash. And this is, I don't know, once he starts sharing this and showing the pictures, it kind of speaks for itself. So I'm just gonna put words to it and kind of share my story. This is the nation's worst drunk driving crash in U.S. history. Happened May 14th, 1988. I was a 15-year-old young man. I'm 48 now. This May actually will be our, I think, 33 years coming up. And I'll be truthful, it's kind of like this happened yesterday. I was just telling Mr. Cardell here, I haven't been on this bus since the pandemic really hit, but on and off a little bit, and it takes you right back to it. And so when he contacted me about wanting to just kind of share our story and get it out there a little bit, I was touched and blessed, but decided to come on up here and share with you guys, and I guess we can kind of walk through this. And even when I'm on here, man, it just takes me back to like I'm 15. Man, this bus is identical to what we were on in 1988. And, I don't know if you shared the entire story.
No,
but
I didn't.
We were a church group coming back from Kings Island in Ohio, coming back to Radcliffe, Kentucky. I don't know if many people that see this, I know YouTube is all over the place.
We've got people in from right now, several different places,
so
man.
We're mainly known for Fort Knox, Kentucky. So if you know where Fort Knox is at, that's where we're at, Radcliffe, Kentucky, right outside of Louisville, Kentucky. So we were going to Kings Island up in Cincinnati, Ohio. I got invited by my best friend, Anthony Marks. He went to the church. Not a lot of people know the details of this story a little bit. We grew up in a little mobile home park here, and very poor. I come from a background, and this is why I'm kind of passionate about my story also. My father's a recovering drug addict. So I grew up in the mix of that, and then I was in this crash. He's got 28 years of sobriety now, so
amen.
This is what it's about. But my friend Anthony went to the church, which is right down the road from our trailer park, for a Mother's Day celebration to take his mom. And he found out that the church took this trip. That was the first year, a lot of people don't know it, we are just now finding out, it's the first year that the church opened up outside of their youth group to invite a bunch of people, more kids. This is why it ended up being so many people on the old bus. There were 67 people that went. We loaded the bus up one Saturday morning, went up there. It was my first time going to Kings Island on an old bus, and had a good time. I always say it like this: the best day of my life turned into the worst day of my life, because at that time of my life, like I said, because of the way I grew up, I didn't get the chance to do stuff like that. So going to Kings Island, I was like going to Disney World. So
I can understand that.
We head up there, stayed up there till 9:30. Park shut down. We load the bus back up to head back home, which was about a 2 hour 15-minute ride. 10:55 at night. Most of us was asleep, heading back here home. And 10:55 at night, we got hit by a drunk driver. A guy named Larry Mahoney driving drunk on the wrong side of Interstate 71 in a little Toyota pickup truck, hit our bus head on. And you would think big bus versus little truck, nothing happening. But in all reality, the worst thing imaginable happened. The bus caught on fire. The fuel tank got punctured by a piece of the suspension on the bus. and put a hole in it, and the bus just erupted. And as Cardell said, go investigate this, because if you know the details of our story, these old buses back then were supposed to have a cage around the tank. It was actually an optional detail when these buses got made back in the early 70s and 80s. Our bus did not have a cage around it, so they say that's what happened. Actually, I don't know if you can get a good picture of it. This bus here has got a cage around it.
Okay.
The way the cage is made, it's open. I think it still would have happened. So we're gonna walk through this, and I'm gonna kind of explain.
If I'm correct, is this why most buses went to diesel?
Yes. This is what people don't realize across the United States. Like, this is crazy how, still to this day, to me, it's crazy how our crash impacted the country. Every bus you see, like I said, right now, you on YouTube, you got people all over the United States that are watching you.
Right.
When you see a bus going down the road, I want you to think about the Carrollton bus crash. Every bus started changing from this crash. Buses went from gasoline to diesel. These seats they started making less flammable material. Every bus has 9 exits on it now.
If you look, I don't mean to cut you off, but if you look at this bus, there's an exit back there, and there's one exit here. So
imagine, like I said, imagine 67 people, mainly the kids, on a bus, pitch black, you can't see, heat starts coming in, basically melting your skin. Always, when I speak in the public sometimes in schools, I always ask kids, who they scream for. Everybody's like, mommy, mommy. This is embedded in our head. Imagine hearing all these kids screaming pitch black for their moms and dads. That's what we heard, because there was no exits to get off of this bus, because the fire was in the front. So everyone trying to get to that back door. So yes, when you see a bus, think about this crash, because like I said, every bus has changed in our country starting from this crash. The fuel tanks now are in the rear, where versus most buses are their fuel tanks still in the front. So like I said, it's a huge deal. And the sad part about it is, back in the 80s when this happened, nobody really
the brake.
It'll shut down.
Okay. Well,
nobody really realized that this crash happened, because truthfully, we were taught not to talk about it. A lot of us moved on in life and just left it alone. And like I said, I'm 48, and we started talking about this again around our 20th, 25th year anniversary. There's I know you mentioned about the documentary?
No, I haven't.
There is a documentary called Impact After the Crash. It's on Amazon Prime. You can watch it for free. But like I said, this is still to this day a pretty huge story. Back in 2014, and this is where I'll jump into sharing more of this. It's kind of why Mr. Cardell's got me on here. My story's kind of crazy. I gave my life to Christ. I'm sorry, can you twist that? It bothers me when I come. There you go. There we go. Sorry, when I'm on this bus, I don't like to be distracted. So it's just, this is why I like talking to people, because I still, even though people see me doing this is still something pretty difficult to deal with sometimes. So I get in my little world, and I gotta be there. So, like I said, for me, this crash killed 27 people, 24 kids and 3 adults. The 2 youngest kids that died in this crash were 10 years old. 40 of us survived. And truthful, when this thing happened, it messes with you mentally, spiritually, and physically. And for many years, I shut down. And as I got into my early 30s, I gave my life to Christ, and it's crazy. I started healing, but PTSD came out and everything else, and just ended up pushing me to a different path in life. And it's crazy. I'm also a school bus driver. I drive a bus for a living. So this has kind of become my calling. When 2014, God put on my heart to buy a bus identical to what we were on in 1988. And this is what one of my friends found on Craigslist, and took me about 6 months, and I went and bought it. But it's crazy because it's hard to find old buses. This bus is identical. I mean, it's crazy. This bus is identical to what we were on May 14th, 1988. Old school bus, taped up seats. If anybody remembers them old 80s buses, and you'll see these pictures on these seats, and this is what grabs you and was touching. The pictures you see on these seats are exactly where the kids were sitting at that night on the bus. So you will not see a picture of a survivor on here, except for as we walk through, you'll see my picture on here, because I want people to identify where I was at, and because this is my bus. But I try to respect all of the survivors. They support me, but really none of us really talk about this to this day. There's maybe 2 or 3 of us that really will speak about it, but we all are grown. It's crazy. A lot of us have kids at the age that most of these kids were. So you would think it'd be harder in the beginning, but truthfully, as we became adults, it's kind of harder to deal with now, because you look at your own kids going on field trips, or getting on buses themselves, and so it just brings up a lot of memories. But I respect their privacy, so I don't really put a lot of their names out. So, like I was saying, we were on Interstate 71, 10:55 at night, and like I said, Larry Mahoney hit our bus head on. And as you can just kind of walk through, and I want you to imagine as you walk through here with us, and just imagine kids on a bus, and not to scare people, because I know people put their kids on a bus, and I actually teach bus safety now, but buses are still the safest mode of transportation. It was just a fluke that this crash happened, but at the same time, it needs to be talked about, and at the same time, people say, and the way my mindset works now, you have to spend something good out of it. Buses did change after this. A lot of us survivors did move on, and we did a lot of good things in life. Even my story, like I said, I go into schools and other places, speak on DUI panels about making right choices. It's not just about our crash for me, about making right choices in life, especially with teenagers, getting out here driving, or people that are out here maybe partying. Like, I just put something on Facebook about Super Bowl. Every holiday, if you run across Quinton Higgins on social media, you're gonna see me post, hey, remember this day, May 14th, 1988, because we found out when we made our documentary, Larry Mahoney stopped at a friend's house, and someone first took his keys and gave them back. Our crash could have been prevented. So you got to do your part out there when you see someone, one of your friends, because I wish alcohol didn't exist, but I can't tell people not to drink. If you got to drink, you got to do everything in your power to stop someone from getting behind that wheel. If someone gave his keys back and said, go home, what makes you think an intoxicated person is going to make a right choice? He got on the interstate, ended up turning right instead of turning left from what we were told to go home, and ended up on the interstate and ended up on the wrong side. Hit our bus. What if, I'll use this word, I don't know what God's telling me to say this. When I go into schools, I use the word snitch, because a lot of people say, well, Mr. Higgins or Quinton, it's not the same. This will never happen. Well, I give you different scenarios, especially with young people, because I want to impact young people's mindsets about things like this. You go in any school, you say the word snitch. Teenagers, snitches get stitches. I can't stand that. Get that mess out your head, because there's a problem with that. When they see someone doing something wrong, we're not going to snitch. We're not going to tell. Seriously, in our society today, what is wrong with telling someone, even adults? If you see somebody doing something wrong, especially if it's going to affect somebody, what is wrong with telling? Seriously, what is wrong with telling? And I put that in this spin context. If someone would have snitched on Larry Mahoney by calling the cops, show these pictures as I'm saying. Somebody would have snitched on him by calling the cops, being a true friend, and kept his keys, this crash wouldn't have happened. These kids wouldn't have lost their life. So when I speak like that in the schools, it makes a child think, and it should make adults think. It don't have to be drinking and driving, drugs. It can be doing anything that could hurt somebody. What is wrong with telling? So this is kind of what I've turned our story into. So, like I said, these pictures on these seats, they represent why you should make the right choice, why you should do your part if you're out here, especially on holidays, partying at home. Think about it. Super Bowl Sunday, everybody meets at somebody's house, there's the alcohol, And I'll be honest with you, most people leave that person's house. No one ever thinks that person got alcohol in them. Honestly, 80% of the time people make it home. It takes that one time that someone doesn't make it. Now, I speak about Larry Mahoney. Larry Mahoney was a good guy. Old country boy, worked. He got up, went to work. But here's what I say. Do you think he got up that morning and said, I'm going to kill 27 people? He got up, went to work, made some bad choices to start drinking when he got off work. Larry Mahoney, 34 years old at the time, didn't realize his day was going to end being known for the worst drunk driving crash in U.S. history. So how do you know the outcome of your day or somebody else's day when you don't stop them? Do you think these kids knew this was going to be their last day on Earth? Do you think, and keep in mind, back in them days, we didn't have cell phones. You know, we were an hour and 15 minutes away from getting home. We were set to get back here at 11:30. And keep in mind, this church took its trip every year. So, 11:30, maybe they pull up. 11:45, no one shows up. Parents think, oh, maybe traffic or whatever. Nothing like this in their head. 12 o'clock, state troopers pull up in the church parking lot having to tell these parents that their kids have been in a crash on Interstate 71. And you got to tell a parent, come on, you're not going to take a 2-hour ride and not tell me what's going on with my child? Imagine being told that. And this is, like I said, I talk like this because I want to put people in that mind frame what exactly we went through. This is not something I try to sugarcoat. This is the worst that could ever happen to any child, any parent. So there was one man, Lee Williams, and that's why I tell you, watch our documentary, Impact After the Crash. His wife, his 2 daughters were on this bus. This man, his wife was 34, his one 14-year-old daughter, and he had a daughter 10 years old. None of them came home that night. That man lost his entire family in one night because someone made a bad choice to drink and drive. And to put it even worse, because no one stopped him. No one decided to snitch. As we walk through here, this is a picture of me. It's kind of old pictures. I got to redo these pictures, but when we got hit, I was sitting 6 seats behind the driver. My best friend Anthony Marks was sitting in front of me. He died. And it's kind of a crazy story. Andy died mad at me because during the day, Andy rode up there with the young lady I was sitting with. And somehow throughout the day, kids being kids, and I get it now because I'm an adult, but imagine going through this. Somehow throughout the day, I stole Andy's little girlfriend. So it's kind of funny, but it's not. But again, you don't think that this was going to happen. Andy died. So of course, he died. He was upset with me because I was sitting with the girl he rode up there with. So I spent 6 weeks in the hospital, 2nd, 3rd degree burns, chain or a scar on my neck from a chain that melted into my neck. When we got hit, we were fine. Then everyone got up in the middle of the aisle, started screaming and crying and pushing. I actually got up and I passed out on the floor. It blows my mind to be an adult on this little, because the bus seems small now. But as a kid back then, it seems like it was big. But I passed out on the floor. Laid there. I don't have a memory of getting stepped on because it was chaotic. You know, us fighting each other to get off the bus. I don't have that memory. Somehow, and doctors have told me over the years, to kind of, people have asked me, I've spoken to psychologists for military because I speak to people with PTSD, and they're like, why do you do this and tell a story so much? Your memories can come back at any time. And I'll be truthful, I hope not, but if they do, they do. But I don't have the memory of laying on the floor. I remember waking up, next thing I knew, I was at the back door. My worst memory was, not to be gory, but like I said, gotta tell the truth of what we seen. Seeing the dead kids that were stacked up at the back door. You know, and I stuck my arm out, and a truck driver that was helping pull kids off the bus pulled my arm, and I fell off the bus. I am one of the last ones to get off this bus alive. And like I said, to go through stuff like that, I hit the ground, and some lady pulled me over to the media, kept me awake, and she was talking to me. And again, a lot of times I'm holding my cell phone when I'm out in public speaking, because as crazy as it is, my cell phone is part of my PTSD. A lot of people don't know it. And they're like, why do you always hold your phone? And I will answer it when I'm talking because I got to be in control. I can't stand missing a call from my wife. I have 3 daughters. 27. I got one 27, one 23, and I got a 14-year-old. My oldest one lives in Oklahoma. My other daughter lives 45 minutes away. They're out in the world, and I can't stand. If something happens, I gotta know. So I'm always holding my phone. And it's kind of crazy, but we all, fortunately, praise God, mine's not that bad, but I do have little quirks in my life because of this crash. So I spent 6 weeks in the hospital. The night of the crash, I didn't realize I was hurt. How I realized I was hurt, when they put me in the ambulance, they started cutting my clothes off and pouring saline solution over my arms. And then I kind of blacked out, and I woke up, and again, as I'm speaking, keep in mind, because this is part of my background story, at this time, my father was a drug addict and alcoholic. And when I woke up, got to the hospital that morning, when I woke up that next morning in the ICU, in the emergency room, my dad was standing over me crying. And I couldn't imagine, I had a tube in my nose, mouth, and throat, couldn't speak, and I've never seen my dad cry because we didn't have that kind of relationship. So, didn't realize what had actually happened to me. My mom, standing off to the side crying hysterically, and months later I asked my mom, I said, why didn't you come to the bed? They call me Junior, so if you ever actually meet me, don't call me Junior in public. But she said, Junior, they had told us that even though you come off that bus, there was a good chance you were going to die. And she said, I couldn't take it coming to that bed and maybe watching you slip away. But again, here I am today. I come through it. And here's what people don't realize when people go through devastating things. Yes, you may survive, but you don't understand the scars and the mental aspects of tragedy in people's lives. This is one of the biggest reasons I do this, for my own healing, but there's 40 survivors. To this day, this is still probably the hardest thing they deal with. There's families all over the United States. A lot of people know my story and hear me speak, and they're devastated by the stuff they go through. And I want to show people through our crash, through my life, and not saying it's easy. None of this is easy. That you can overcome the worst things in your life. This right here, when people see it, again, not bragging on me because I'm nobody. But when someone comes up to me and says, Mr. Higgins, you've changed my life by the way you spoke, by hearing everything you've overcome, by speaking up for the ones that can't. Like I said, I even like speaking up for the ones that can't. That ties into many voices. Speaking up to teaching your kids to speak up when kids are getting bullied in school. Use their voice. I've got a nonprofit called Voice for Change. And we started just because of this old bus, because we had to have a nonprofit. But I have determined to use my voice to speak up for the ones that can't, for the ones we lost May 14th, 1988. And that's what I will continue to do until the day I die. And I never intended for this to turn into anything. This bus is sitting still right now. I intended for this bus to sit still. It sits at a Colton's restaurant, which is a local restaurant here in our town, Hardin County, Radcliffe. People see it. But I get on this bus and I drive. I take this bus and I speak to military people. I drive all over Kentucky and parts of Indiana and speak. And pandemic hit, so I kind of slowed that down. But I'm getting ready to get back out here and I speak. So if you ever need someone to contact me, I'll share it virtually. If this old bus can roll, I'll roll out and I'll come speak because I got to share this story. But most important, this right here is not about me. It's about May 14th, 1988. It's about people remembering and not forgetting that this crash happened. It's about remembering the 24 kids and 3 adults that lost their life that night. It's about remembering all the families that after May 14th, their life changed. They're 2 10-year-olds. They never imagined this. You got brothers and sisters, moms and dads. Imagine them not walking in the door tomorrow. Again, that speaks to everything we're going through in today's world. I'm known. I forgive Larry Mahoney. A lot of people, and I get it, a lot of people aren't there and they don't understand it. But what I have realized in my life, especially because of the way I grew up, and then survived this, and then going through a lot of stuff in my life, and really finding healing only at 33, which is really kind of late in life. Life is too short to deal with nonsense, to deal with hurts and pains. I get we go through stuff, but you got to find a way to push through. Larry Mahoney didn't mean to cause this crash. He did the dumbest thing in the world, made a bad choice. We all do. This could be anybody. But I want you to always remember, maybe your loved one will not walk in that door tomorrow because of they've been in a crash, hurt, or something. You just don't know. So if you got something going on in your life and your family, find a way to mend it. Just find a way to move on in life and be happy. My oldest daughter, the best thing that she has ever said to me, now, I'm not mean, I wish she was here, because I joke on her a lot. My girls seen me transition my life, because I used to not be a good father, husband, because of all the stuff I dealt with. About 4 years ago, my daughter was home, and we had what I call 2 o'clock in the morning cereal sessions. So, but she was called. She said, "Dad, you're my hero." And I said, "I don't want to be your hero." She's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Don't get me wrong." I said, "I understand what you're saying." I said, "But I'm not. I don't set out to be you girls' hero." I said, "What I want my 3 girls to remember is I don't know how long I'll be out here doing this." I said, "But in the time frame that you've seen your father overcome everything, one day I'm gonna die. I think about death all the time, truthfully. Not that I'm afraid of dying, but because I survived this, anything can happen out here. I don't know the day I'm actually gonna be gone." So what I told my daughter, I said, "Look, when I die, I don't want to be up there with me because I know I'm going to heaven." I said, "I don't want God up there like, hey, how come you didn't teach Sherelle that? How come you didn't teach Kayla that? How come you didn't talk to Samara about this? How come you didn't apologize or say sorry or forgive someone?" I don't want those conversations to be left unheard. I don't want my daughter, my example, to be when they go through stuff. I want them to say, "You know what, my daddy taught me this. If he prevailed, I can do the same thing." That's the legacy that I want to leave behind for everyone that hears our story. That's the legacy I want to have for all the survivors. Because a lot of them are not where I'm at. Most of them don't even talk about this. Most of the parents that lost their kids. I'm in touch with about 4 or 5 of the parents that lost their kids on that bus that night. It hurts to this day. And a lot of them, this is the blessing. A lot of them reach out to me and say, "Quinton, thank you for speaking for them. Thank you for doing what you do." So this is not for fame or fortune or just to be out here doing stuff. This is still troubling for me, but what I do know is I got to keep going. I want to show people, what you can overcome, what you can do, but no drinking and driving. No, if you see anyone impaired, you do everything you can to stop it. I always tell kids in the school system sometimes, because this is what we do in the world. Let's say you saw him. Let's say you looked out this window and, matter of fact, we're at a restaurant. Let's say you've seen someone walk out this restaurant stumbling and they fall in the snow. That's funny. But would we actually say something? Most of us wouldn't. What if we don't see? What if they get in their car, they drive down this highway, this Dixie Highway here, and they hit somebody? But we just saw them. That is the reality of this crash. That is the reality of your life. It doesn't have to be a drunk person. Anything in your life that you know you could stop or help, do it. So, got me rambling, man. You got me going. I'm hyped up.
Okay, I tell the brothers, me and Quinton met each other through riding motorcycles. And my uncle, which was, when I share the story, I tell y'all about me turning wrenches, my first swap, as far as doing an engine swap, was with my uncle and on a weekend, and the very next weekend, a drunk driver killed him. So it needs to be heard, man. I think it does. It needs to be heard because it's going on, so it needs to be heard.
But I tell you, I want you to finish walking through here. I want to open that back door because actually back all the way up. Because I want people to get a reality of walking through this bus with us and understanding the chaos and what just actually what we went through. And like I said, as you're walking through here, I want you guys to put in your head, there's kids in these aisles. And I'm going to open this back door, and I want you to imagine, this was the only escape route. And this is where we had to go. And it's crazy. I got a picture of the kids, and actually, if you could, on the back door. And something that sticks out to me, which I didn't start thinking about until about 2 years ago. It just kind of freaks me out. Walk through here, emergency door.
Emergency door.
That's like, dude, I mean, you just don't understand what that does to someone's mindset that has survived this. And I get on this crazy bus often and drive. I'm going to take... And I want you to get in your mindsets the reality of going through this back door. And I didn't share this, but I'm going to read this. Y'all forgive me, I don't read that well in public, but I got to share this because a lot of, like I said, this is why I tell people, make sure you watch our documentary. These words here come from 10-year-old Patty Nunley. I originally, and I'm still hoping to do it, I still have a lot of plans for this bus. I wanted to airbrush this on my roof. I couldn't find a way to airbrush, but she wrote a poem. It was like, still gets me this day because when you hear her story, she wrote a poem about making choices on Tuesday. Won a contest that she was going to compete with high schoolers because she won this contest for writing a poem. And these are words from her poem. And I took it as best I could because I wanted people to see it. This panel here is actually, it sticks on the back of my window, so if you're driving behind my bus, you read her words. She says, destiny, choice not chance. I feel that destiny is a choice made by you. Destiny should not come by chance. If destiny comes by chance, you may not have a good life. You may live the way that you want to. Your future should not be left to chance. You have the choice to improve your destiny. To meet your destiny, you must be careful to make the right choices because you may only have one choice. Think about that. That girl wrote that poem and lost her life because someone made the wrong choice to drink and drive. How crazy is that? So, as I'm saying, people, hearing this story and talking like I'm talking and sharing it with was it swaps and stuff, Mr.
Yes,
Cardell?
sir. Yeah, yes, sir.
It's a blessing, but this is what it's about. This is not about me or this crash. This is about hearing these words this 10-year-old wrote. There's times, I'll be true, there's times I sit at home and I'm either preparing to go out and speak somewhere or I watch our documentary the full entirety once a year, and to see her mom reads this poem on the screen and then flashes her picture. Man, I bust down crying like a 2-year-old because it's you. If you don't have emotion with this, I don't know what to tell you. I always tell people after hearing our story, watching our documentary, if it doesn't change your life or change your mindset in some way, I don't know what to say to people.
Right.
So I appreciate you. I like I said, me and Cardell go way back, but he started doing the swaps and stuff, and I follow him, and like I said, I respect him. He's a real good guy doing big things, and he shares his heart. It's not just about the cars and stuff.
Right.
Like I said, I keep up with you, man. He shares his heart about life, but he's got a gift and he's got a talent. So follow him. Watch our story and listen. Like I said, I'm not trying to be hardcore, but listen. All this out. The last thing I kind of say is when I'm speaking in classes, I speak in a lot of DUI classes. If you don't have the courage to speak up or get help if you got issues, you're a coward. A life is a life. And that's what this is about. It's not about our pride or anything else. You go out and you speak to change a life. And maybe you'll save a life. And that's what it's about. But yeah, man, this is a...
If you don't mind, I'm gonna step back around. I'm gonna go around to the other side and look in from there real quick. Appreciate y'all chiming in. I see the comments, but I'll definitely he'll definitely he's in the comments, and as far as following and watching swaps and stuff, he does that too, and I appreciate him for that, and I appreciate y'all hanging out. But we'll look from this angle here. Of course, that's where he's talking.
Even you doing that, it's taking me back to, imagine being a 15-year-old kid and you gotta scurry and rush off this bus in the dark because it's on fire. Like I said, it just wasn't a regular accident. Fire kind of made you have to move.
You know, my hats off to this man for doing this. You know what I mean? You know, the exact same bus, then to drive the bus and to share his story, man. It's just you don't find that. You don't find that.
What I didn't share, like I can talk for hours, if you look at these windows, because you might get a question, so I'm going to kind of answer it now. A lot of people say more should have lived. And I get that, but I'll be truthful. Every anniversary, you'll see us on the news maybe, or on Facebook or social media. And unless you're there, you don't know. But a lot of people always ask about the windows on these buses. You know, how come more kids didn't get out the windows? One, these old windows, it takes 2 fingers to kind of up and down. And honestly, they get kind of stuck. But what I share with people, and this is a bus driver tip, because I drive a bus for a living. Been driving 11 years. This is crazy. But I want you guys to think about this, because your own kids, or if something ever happens out here, you may question them. The easiest thing to do becomes the hardest thing to do for a child in a panic. You know, you can't imagine what it was like to panic. And honestly, in my head, I didn't see a window. In my head, I seen get up and get out. And the only exit, seeing light go that way. Wasn't thinking about a window. We had one lady, she was very, very tiny. In the second seat, she got out of one of the windows. And another kid spoke. They don't know how they did it. But they got out of one of the front windows too. That was it. But most of them, you just don't think that. People talk about seatbelts on a bus. No seatbelts. Because here's the problem. One, very rarely you hear even about a bus crash. 2, if as a driver sitting in that front seat, let's say the driver's passed out, kids are buckled up, they're going to panic. They're all not going to get out. So there's a reason people don't know this. Why seats on a bus are made so high. Because on impact, kids are designed to go up into the seat. So like I said, many safety features now especially. But all I would tell you is, especially if you watch our documentary and really investigate our crash, there's not many questions you can answer. Because a lot of people try to answer questions and they say, it happened. You know, and there's no amount of safety features that would have hindered that at the time. I don't believe. Not back in '88. I just don't believe that. Like I said, it was a fluke. Bus caught on fire. The biggest thing, and I always, like I said, I get kind of upset sometimes when I get posed a lot of questions, and I get it. It wasn't for a drunk driver. Period. Nothing else. If it wasn't for a drunk driver, this wouldn't happen. So you can't necessarily blame on the bus or anything else. It was a drunk driver that shouldn't have been out there, and people could have stopped. So no matter what you think or you hear, keep in mind, this was about a man that drove drunk, and his friends didn't stop him. You know, I blame, like I said, I blame his friends more than I actually blame him. Simply because of this. I've seen my father, like I said, my dad drink and drove all the time. When someone starts to drink, they're not in their right mind. And people don't think that way. They always want to blame it on, well, he was drunk, he shouldn't. I get that. But once they start, they're not in their right mind. But maybe you see them and you let them out of your sight and you let them go. Think about who's actually at fault. The one that could have stopped it. So, like I said, as you can hear how I speak, my job is to make people think. But that's what this is.
Well, as he was saying, as far as safety features, if you notice at the top of this bus, there's no exits. Like if you see today's bus, there are exits in the top of the bus.
And actually, there's also the strobe light.
Yes.
Like, so that blows my mind because I'll be honest, I took a trip. I don't take field trips, so I don't like driving at night. I took a trip a while back, and some of the drivers were complaining that the strobe light, and it kind of hindered. If there's 4 buses following each other, their strobe light in the middle of the night, 11 o'clock, driving on the interstate, kind of plays with you. And there's a unspoken thing out there. Sometimes drivers will turn that light off. And I found out about it, and I spoke up. Like, no. I said, and then they didn't know who I was. I said, look, that's crazy. I am part of the reason that strobe light's up there. So I don't know. We're not doing that. So yeah, man, many changes and many features.
And like in the windows, I'm gonna walk around the side here. You know, the windows that you see on buses today that you have that are for emergency exits, where there's none here, as he was saying, none. What that guy don't know is there's a state boy sitting right up the road. Is what he don't know. Just some of the names. And to be honest, a little too chilly to be out on the bike for me. But you see, there's no emergency exits here.
When I don't drive this thing for a while, and I try it about once a month, if I'm not speaking a lot, I'll take it and I'll drive it. And they say, I just go out and drive it, just keep it running. One of the things that kind of blesses me that I don't really pay attention to sometimes is I'll see people reading what it says, or people will honk at me, and honestly, I don't realize what I do, because I don't think about this. But I'll be out, people will honk at me or wave at me, give me a thumbs up, or somebody on social media will post, oh, we seen you driving down the road. But that just reminds me what this means, and what I'm supposed to be out here doing. So yeah, it's just become something pretty powerful. And like I said, just to this day, I always tell my mom I don't really realize it because I was in the crash. I don't really realize what this meant for our community. You know, I've met adults that will come up to me and not say a word and start crying because they remember what our town went through. You know, I was in the hospital. I always tell my mom, I said, I being away for so long, she was like, this was national news. People in Germany, you know, Korea, reaching out to this area and having signs up for weeks and months talking about we will not forget. I'm like, can you imagine coming into Hardin County, reading all that and being here? And I'm like, yeah, it's. So like I said, I just never realized what this would turn into and what this still meant for our community. But I'm blessed and I'm glad that God gave me the courage to do it because it still means a lot.
It's awesome. I was a kid. We're about the same age, and I remember it when it happened. And then I'm like, wow. And then when we met each other and you was telling me about it, and then I was like, wow. The time that you had brought the bus down, we went out and ate lunch. He was like, well, let's go ahead. We're going to move. I said, no, leave it here.
Yeah,
leave it here.
I was powerful. Yeah, I'm going to share. Man, I went out to this Breckenridge High School and spoke. And hadn't run across him too much because we just life and just everything else. But he found out I was coming out there. And when I got done speaking, he said, I want to take you out to lunch. And again, I didn't want the bus to be in the way, because it was in front of the school, and he was like, no, I remember your word. You said, no, somebody needs to see this.
Right.
So I left, and we leave, and we come back, and when I got back, there was a young lady on the bus speaking to her brother or cousin, I don't remember what it was. And a lot of people had stopped and seen it, but the blessing of that, the young lady that was on it, she was a recovering addict. Going at her cousin, or it was her brother, about don't you do these things, you see what can cause. She ended up speaking with me for about 2 years. And like I like I said, so those are kind of the things that come out of doing this. But, yeah, pretty powerful stuff. You know, I just was telling somebody yesterday, because I'm working on a book that I'm procrastinating on. But it's not about this, it's about all the stuff that happens to me when I go out. You know, I got stopped on a Bluegrass Parkway, stopped by a semi. Some guy driving from Texas once that's from here. He stopped me, took me a minute to stop. I'm like, I'm not stopping on the highway. But I stopped just because God said stop. And this joker got off and cried with me. He said, I know who you are. I just wanted to commend you for what you do. You know, so I said, this means a lot to a lot of people. So, but it's not just Quinton Higgins. This is about their faces.
Yes. So, y'all can go check out the movie, and y'all share this if y'all don't care, man, because somebody needs to hear it. You know what I mean? Somebody needs to hear it. It may open an eye for somebody somewhere.
Did you get those color pictures?
The sun. The way the sun is hitting it, y'all. I'm sorry. I don't know if y'all can see this or not.
27 reasons not to drink and drive.
Quinton, I appreciate your time, man.
I appreciate you reaching out and wanting to share it.
Yeah, man, I sure do. I got here, he had her sitting here running, purring. What year is the bus again?
This is 87.
87.
This is actually about 10 years newer than the original bus we were on, but the model hadn't changed.
The model number is the same, so it's the same. Yes. So, man.
I'll tell you a crazy thing. When I got this thing, it only had 88,000 miles on it. 1988, year of our crash.
Whoa.
It's got 89,000 on now. It's unheard of to find an old bus with that.
Right.
Miles.
But you know, 88,000 in
Yeah.
1988. Yeah, man.
So people may think I'm crazy, but I was called to do this, and this bus was meant for me to have.
Yeah.
I'm going to share this little tidbit real quick. Actually, got me talking, man. But again, how God's wrapped up in this. When I originally decided to do this, I didn't tell anybody, and I prayed about it. And I normally tell my wife, but I didn't want to tell her. She tells me no about everything, because I'm like swaps and stuff here. I do all kinds of crazy stuff. She's like, no. So one day I was running my mouth to another driver, and just kind of like what I might do, what I'm thinking about doing. And she got on Craigslist and found this bus. And the guy was a pastor in Lexington, and he started calling me because she sent him my information.
Okay.
He started calling me. His name was Terry. I got a good friend that actually I went to church with him. His name is Pastor Terry, so I was comfortable talking to Terry. This guy taught DUI classes in '86.
Oh.
He asked me, he said, "You really gonna do that?" I was like, "I'm probably not." Got off the phone. He called me back about a week later and said, "Quinton, me and my wife have prayed and we're taking the bus off Craigslist. It's your bus." And I started crying. I'm like, "Don't do that for me." He said, "No, sir." I said, "Terry, I'm probably not even gonna do it." Got off the phone. Called me back almost a week and a half later. He said, "Quinton, instead of $2,800 for this old bus, I'm gonna give it to you for $1,800. A week later, I went and bought the bus.
There we go. It was meant to happen, man.
Yeah,
And I appreciate you sharing it, man, because it's powerful. It's powerful. The comments in here are saying, you know, there's a lot of comments in here that are that people are saying. I appreciate y'all chiming in. I really do. And like I said again, y'all get a chance, look it up. It's 27 Reasons Not to Drink and Drive, May 14th, 1988. Quinton Higgins is his name, if y'all didn't catch that. Carrollton, Kentucky. And I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you, Big Chief. What I want y'all to realize is, and I don't know if he know this or not, man, but he ain't gonna know this. My phone is notorious for eating the battery up, and it's been on charge, and it ain't charged but up to 30%. We've been on here almost 50 minutes.
Really?
And it hasn't died yet.
What?
So usually it's already dead.
Yeah.
It's already dead, man. So it's meant to be, man. This was meant to be shared with y'all. So again, thank y'all. And a lot of people here are thanking you, Quinton. They are thanking you.
Don't thank me, just share it and watch it.
Yes, share it and watch it and pass it along to someone. Is this where you saying that, look here?
Yeah.
Oh, here we.
I don't know what good you. As you can see, that is just 2 bars.
That's the fuel tank, y'all. I don't know if y'all can see that there with the. I don't have a flash, but that is the fuel tank, and it's just like 2 bars here, a bar here, and a bar there.
It's pretty much open, so to me, that because it said the leaf spring shot up and put a hole.
Oh, because it was
because it's open. To me, it probably still would happen.
Yes.
Like I said, I've learned not to. As we all hear, God says, don't question.
Yeah.
So if we spend our lifetime questioning bad stuff, we'll stay in turmoil. That's one thing I've learned not to do.
B-Lo, I appreciate that, man. I seen your comments earlier saying that you've rode past that at sign. He said he rode past the sign.
Okay.
And he had to he went and looked it up.
Yeah. That's what it's.
So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm glad years ago they were talking about taking the sign off the highway.
No, I don't think they should.
No, they shouldn't. A lot of us rode the Kentucky State Highway, and I explained it like this. I'm like, dude, thousands of people cross that highway, maybe coming from New York or wherever. So what if one adult goes and looks that crash up? But now and they kept it up.
If I ain't mistaken, he's from Memphis.
Really? Yeah, man. See, that's what I'm talking about.
So if I'm right, I hope I'm right there, B-Lo. Again, y'all, thank y'all. Go checking it out if you don't care. And y'all have a very blessed rest of the day and in the evening. Thanks again.